it was never in the cards for me to be a doctor. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just like, that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
that's like the beauty of life, though.
That's
too,
the beauty of life.
Know?
You find the thing that you're good at,
yeah.
and you don't have full control over it. Hello. This is my new best friend. I've decided. Margo, Darragh.
Yeah, agreed.
Tillman Scholar 2022.
And I'll introduce my new best friend as well. We really hadn't met until just a few minutes ago, but this is Chris Roessner, Tillman Scholar 2010.
Like you said, we don't know each other. And one of the things that I've found over the years is that Tillman Scholars are really hesitant to talk about themselves.
Definitely.
So I'm going to force you to do that, and you're going to force me to do that.
I will.
And we're going to compete over who can talk about themselves the least.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
I like that energy.
Let's start with this. Where you're from, and when you found that you're interested in the military.
Oh yeah. And I can't wait to hear your answer too, because I'm going to ask you the same thing. So I'm from a really small town right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So basically right on the Pennsylvania-West Virginia border. Yeah. And my parents still live there. I'm still really close with kind of my family and then also my high school kind of and childhood friends who are still there. And it's interesting, like neither of my parents were in the military, but my mom's oldest brother enlisted in Vietnam and was killed in action after only after only a month in country. And so I think that just like knowing that she had grown up in a Gold Star family and that influence was something that I think subconsciously I did really carry with me growing up. And then when I decided I wanted to go to the Naval Academy, I would say, kind of looking back on it, that was like a motivating factor, having like that kind of legacy in my family.
Yeah.
What about you? Where are you from?
So I'm from
same questions.
Yeah, I'm from a lot of places, I think. I was born and raised in Canton, Ohio, which is like northeastern Ohio.
Yeah.
So I think we have this like somewhat industrial Midwest background.
No, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I really love. Some of my favorite people are Midwestern people.
Absolutely.
Aren't they just wonderful?
Yeah, the best.
And when I was about 13 or 14, my stepdad, who was a truck driver, got a job based out of Texas. So we moved to a small town in Texas, and I went to high school in this town called Temple. It's 45 minutes outside of Austin. Yeah. And then after I graduated high school, I kind of looked around and I was like, I don't want to be in a small town. I'm not a small town person. I'm very much like a city guy.
Yeah.
But there was no way for me to kind of like maneuver. Like I didn't have any cards to play. So I went to a recruiter and basically was like, hey, if I sign up, can I pay for college and this, that, and the other? And of course he was like, yeah, all your dreams.
Let me tell you.
All your dreams will come true,
You're this gift that walked in, ready.
And in retrospect, I feel like maybe he was being a little dishonest. But I signed up for the military very, very much like immediately. Like I was, at the time I was, after high school, I was selling water purifiers door to door for like, I don't know, a couple months. And I was like, this isn't it for me. This is not how I'm going to live my life. So I signed up. I just like went to a strip mall. It was like the recruiters was like between a nail salon and a Subway sandwich shop or something.
Probably an Auntie Anne's pretzel right there too.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I was like, this is what I want to do. But I do, in retrospect, like I do come from a military family, and no one was like encouraging me or discouraging me to join, but it just felt like something that was important to me and my personal growth, and signed up and then got shipped overseas, which I know we'll talk about. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about the Naval Academy. And when you were applying to colleges, were you sort of dead set on the Naval Academy, or were you like, well, I'm going to kind of spread my applications around and see what comes back?
It is so funny that you asked this, because the reality is that someone in my family who was enlisted in the Air Force, kind of, he ended up marrying my cousin, but like distant sort of relative, had mentioned in passing the Naval Academy. And it was like it planted the seed in my mind where I was like, I want to know about this. I want to hear about this place. I ended up going to some of their summer programming. And I remember being there and feeling like that was where I was meant to be, like truly.
Instantly, you just felt that. That's great.
Yeah. And so to my family's absolute dismay, I only applied to the Naval Academy in West Point, which in hindsight, like I should have at least probably applied to like one other school in case I got injured or something happened, but I was really set, I think, on one of the service academies. And part of it was, it's interesting to hear you talk about kind of you knowing that you wanted to kind of like change your life course and get out of this small town. And I wouldn't say it was me trying to get out of the small town as much as it was that a lot of life paths and a lot of the colleges that might have been available to me seemed the same. And there was something different, obviously, about the service academies. That just really resonated with me.
Was there anybody else in your high school that also applied to?
No.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't think we'd sent, I went to a really small, public school in rural Pennsylvania. Like, I don't know that, I don't remember the last time that we'd sent someone to a service academy. So it certainly was scary. Like, I felt, like kind of uncharted waters. But I think really, like, once my mind was set, it was set. And would you say that was the case for you? Like, once you knew you were going to go into the military, like, no one was going to talk you out of it?
No, absolutely. Like, once I signed up, I remember I walked, I got home after talking to the recruiters. I mean, I was there for maybe 45 minutes, and I was like, I walked in there, I said, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
This is what I want. Let's make this happen. And I remember walking into the front door of my house, and my mom and my stepdad were just, in the kitchen doing whatever.
Yeah.
And I basically was like, I signed up for the military. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to leave in a couple months. And they were like, what the hell? We sat down and we talked about it. And they to their credit, always allowed me to be really independent.
Yeah.
So they weren't discouraging whatsoever, but they also know that I have, I wanted to say had, but I have an impulsive streak where it's like I don't exist very long in this uncomfortable space of I can't solve a problem. And, I wanted to go to college. I had some dreams for myself, and you can only knock on so many doors and try to sell so many like water purification systems before you go,
sure.
I can't do this at all anymore. So I was dead set on it. And then when I got to basic training, as terrifying as it was, I think similar to what you're saying, is that I felt at home in this weird way almost immediately. Like, I really enjoyed the structure. I really enjoyed the fact that we were being ushered to serve something bigger than ourselves. We talk about this a lot in the Tillman Foundation. We talked about this morning, as a matter of fact, the difficulty of being in a leadership role, but also maintaining empathy and maintaining a sense of humanity. And I think that the job of being a civil affairs soldier is very much that. In any industry, you're going to encounter people that are not so great. But none of them are trying to hurt me. And it's like I can maintain empathy.
My threshold's a little different now for that.
Different.
Yeah.
So I can maintain empathy for people who maybe have different priorities than me, or maybe conduct themselves in ways that I disagree with. And I don't, to the best of my ability, don't allow it to suck me in, and I don't allow myself to be pulled into the same type of, petty bickering that I think happens as we all try to move up in our careers. Like, I don't have any of that, which I'm very, very proud of, What about yourself? How has your military service stayed with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think literally to that point, I feel like it changes your perspective and your threshold for stakes in general. Like, I imagine you felt this way. I remember being in the Marines, and I would wake up at the start of the day, and it's first thing in the morning, and I would think like, wow, like today's gonna be a hard day. Yeah. Like, there's a lot that has to happen today, and like things could go really wrong, people could get hurt, or, I hope things will go right, but like, I really don't know. And I think stepping and having day after day, months, like you said, 15 months, I can only imagine, of that kind of uncertainty and those stakes, I think just does obviously change, like when you come back and assimilate back into normal life. Obviously, there are hard days in our day-to-day now, but like as a law student or as a future lawyer, like I know there will be game days, there'll be, stakes will be high, but it's different.
Well, to your point about assimilation, you're at Yale Law School, right?
Somehow, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think they make mistakes.
I think maybe they did.
You're the one mistake they've made.
Yeah, they can't take it back.
How many decades of its existence? That's, I imagine, quite different than serving in the military. Although I know that there's, probably, I assume veterans either in your class or like around maybe.
Yeah,
but
thankfully.
it's a very different experience, a very different institution.
Yeah.
How have you found that? How have you found assimilating to, higher education, let alone at a university like Yale?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like a lot of people say this, but I do really mean it. Like in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have imagined that I'd be at a school like this. And I mean, it's obviously presented its own challenges. It's certainly, my classmates are brilliant. I feel like I'm fighting for my life every day alongside these folks. like truly just incredible. I think though, to the kind of our discussion about like perspective and the threshold, I think I've tried to really approach it from a standpoint of like, I'm just grateful to be here.
Yeah.
And the fact that I have access to this education, and for 3 years I can take a pause in the middle of my life and just, take all of these classes and be a student again and really only be responsible for myself.
Yeah.
That's been really refreshing.
Yeah, I can see your face light up.
Like, don't get me wrong, I miss my platoon of Marines every day. Like, I really do. And I miss that level of fulfillment and purpose. And I'm sure you do too, that comes with that, like such a mission-oriented and team-oriented environment. Like, I love that. But I think for a transition, it's actually been a really, despite kind of the academic challenge that it presents and the stress that comes with being in school and needing to perform in that way, to be able to like have this education that, is just, again, something I never even imagined for myself. I'm like, I guess to answer your question, I'm overwhelmingly like grateful for it.
That's great.
And I try to remind myself of that even when I'm like,
It's
crunching away on a paper or getting toasted on an exam.
It's really impressive, and not just the Yale Law School of it all, but your time in the military. And if I remember correctly from your bio, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a combat engineer, is that right? And were you at the Naval Academy when they changed the policy to allow women to enter that field?
Yeah, you are remembering correctly. Yeah,
that's really impressive. I mean. There's so many things impressive about you, but I remember that like stuck out to me as like a real inflection point in that I could feel, oh, here is a person who recognized that an opportunity that was previously close to her is now open. Yeah. And you chose to seize that. I think that says a lot about you, but I'd love to hear about that moment, if you remember it vividly, when you realized that this was going to be, combat engineer was something that was now possible for you. Yeah,
and I mean, looking back on it, it's hard. I wish I could tell you even that I remembered the exact moment. But I will say, in like 2015, 2016, when the Secretary of Defense, I think Ash Carter at the time, gave all the services that mandate that they had to integrate women into all previously restricted roles, there were women in the Marines who were combat engineers, but they just weren't allowed to serve with our like true ground combat unit. They weren't allowed to attach to an infantry battalion and be a platoon commander or be a combat engineer on deployment with infantry, with Marine Corps infantry. Like if I'm gonna, have a chance to do this and be at the lowest kind of platoon commander level, like I wanna have one of those platoons. But I recognize too a lot of it, and I wonder if you feel this way too about your service, a lot of it was in a way just like luck and timing. Yeah. Like I think I just happened to be becoming a Marine at the time that this opened, and then, kind of in our officer training pipeline when they needed to start sending women to integrate these units. And I said, I want this specialty. And then it kind of went from there. So yeah, I feel like when I look back on it, it just feels like the stars aligned in a really specific way. And I wonder if, obviously there's a certain willpower, like you going and saying like, I want to do this, but then circumstance and kind of, fate aligning. Yeah. And I'm also curious, I mean, I had to assimilate into Yale Law School, but you assimilated into the filmmaking realm and LA and Hollywood. Like, I would love to hear about that.
Yeah,
we haven't talked about that.
It's a whole different world. I want to agree, before I answer, I want to agree with you about stars aligning and serendipity. And the older I get, the more I can sort of reflect back on my life and go, oh, I had drive, or I had a dream that was like burning that I didn't want to let it die. Yeah. But there's also this huge element that when I was younger, I wouldn't give as much credit to, which is just like I happened to be in the right place at the right time, or I took advantage of something, like you said, that was suddenly available, and I tried to make the most of it. And I think like if the 25-year-old version of myself was sitting here, I would kind of think about life as like a battering ram. You just like keep going until you get what you want. And now I'm sort of like, no, it's much more of like a chess game, or it's much more of like a poker game. You try to like make the most of whatever hand that you're dealt. Yeah. And I think that's really what separates people, is how do they make the most of whatever opportunities are there or not there. Yeah. But as far as assimilating, I think.
I can't imagine.
I'll say that I'm probably not assimilated to Hollywood. Is what I would say. No. I mean, I will definitely kick around Hollywood a bit and, punch it in the chops and criticize it because it deserves some of that. But before I do, I absolutely love my job. I absolutely love being around filmmakers. I love creative people. I love passionate people. And the thing about Hollywood, the thing about Los Angeles that makes it so, it's so easy to get Stockholm Syndrome there because the people that I've met there who I love deeply and am so impressed by and I spend all my time with, it's like, well, I couldn't have met these people, these types of people in any other industry. And people out there are whip smart. Like they're really, really intelligent and just really, really gutsy. It takes a lot of passion and quite an appetite for risk to navigate this giant machine that like exists to eat. It's like at best it's indifferent to you. At best,
Otherwise, it's trying to take.
Yeah. So it's like really trying to just like gobble up everybody that comes to town. And I think that if it wasn't for the military, if it wasn't for certainly the Pat Tillman Foundation, but my ability to kind of come to PTLS every summer and just kind of be reminded of what's important to me and what grounds me, I probably would have had a lot harder time.
Yeah, and it's like staying grounded. I mean, I imagine, like you mentioned, you had this sense of self.
Yeah.
I think, and a sense of grounding going into an environment that otherwise can kind of like lift you up off your feet and take you in any direction. And I wonder how, like, service in general, and I know you do some volunteer work in Ukraine with your wife. Do you find that that's been I wonder if that's been a cornerstone for you, or how you would put that in the context of that.
It's the most important thing in my life. I mean that. Like I said, as passionate as I am about my job, the volunteer work that, especially my wife and I do, like you mentioned, we went to Ukraine last year. I think we're going to go again in September.
Wow.
That sort of stuff really helps you keep perspective. And you said, before the question, you said, Hollywood can kind of like grab you and lift you up and, send you somewhere like in an instant. And that is true. Like the first 10 years that I was there, I was really broke. Like I was getting, eviction notices. I was really just trying to make it by, right?
Yeah.
And then I wrote a movie and I'd given it to some friends on a Friday. And I kid you not, by Monday, my life was completely different. It was completely different. And it's not been the same ever since. And it just set my life on a whole other trajectory. And it was really, really fun and really exciting.
That's
and you get to feel like you're the belle of the ball. But I know that had it not been for, as I said, my time in the military, I think back to how like intoxicating that would have been and how easily I would have been chewed up and spit out. And the volunteer work, whether it's in Ukraine or stuff we do locally, it's so crucial for my wife and I, who also works in Hollywood. So we're two crazy people.
I love it. Yeah,
living in a house together. And she feels the exact same way about it. It's like, it's the only way to keep perspective. You have to be active about it. And I really struggled for the first few years of my career because I did not feel like my job was contributing to society in the way that, certainly being in the military did.
Totally.
And, you kind of have, certainly I did, these moments where it's like, oh man, I'm writing like an action movie or something like this, whatever.
Okay, that's really cool though.
It's fun, but it's sort of like, after so many years, you're like, hey, what am I doing? And then again, getting older and having some more perspective, it's sort of like, it doesn't matter what your job is. If you do it with integrity and you do it joyfully, then that is service, I feel like anytime I get a little bit lost, like my wife and I, we'll talk to each other. If we get a little frustrated with the business or we get stuck creatively or we're kind of like, oh, we need to go do something service oriented. Like how many more of these movies or TV shows can I write? We kind of stop for a second, go, we're in the joy business. Like that's the job, it's like, I have the skills that I have and, like it was never in the cards for me to be a doctor. It's just like, that was never going to happen.
That's like the beauty of life though.
That's the beauty of life. You find the thing that you're good at and you don't have full control over it. But what you do have control over is like, how do you use that skill in a pure way to be of service to others? And I definitely would denigrate my job if this was like 7 years ago, I'd probably, be a little bit harder on it and be like, oh, it's silly, it's dumb, or whatever else. But I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like it's just one aspect of my life, and it's a joyful aspect. Like it's a fun thing to do, and it's exciting when you're in a room with other people who are talking about some story you're trying to figure out, and everyone's really jazzed about it. And not just movies, but I mean, it's music and art, all of these things. You don't realize that it's important day in and day out, but then all of a sudden your mom gets sick, or, you go through a divorce or something, and you find that song or that movie that helps you feel a little bit better to like navigate the inevitable tragedies of life, but also the celebrations of life as well. Something goes well and you want to reach for that thing, you want to put on that song that makes you feel excited and amplifies whatever you're feeling in that moment. All of this stuff seems frivolous until it doesn't, and then it seems essential. When I made my first movie, it's like 2017, and it was an Iraq War movie, and I remember getting emails from strangers who had watched it, and there were some mothers who lost their children in Iraq, and they just watched the movie and kind of found me online and would send me these nice emails that were like, hey, you don't know me, I don't know if you knew my son, you probably didn't, but I watched the film and I just felt like I had some small understanding of maybe what they experienced over there.
Wow.
And that was really moving and overwhelming, and not something that I anticipated at all.
I think, like, truthfully, I'm still figuring it out. But I think a few things have stayed true to when I first realized that I wanted to go to law school. And I was in the Marines, and I was closely following the opioid crisis in particular. Yeah. And I mean, you said you're from Northeastern Ohio. I mean, everywhere in the country was like devastated by that. But I remember being in the Marines and thinking, like, seeing this happen and being so consumed by my job that I really couldn't, I felt like I couldn't affect any sort of change on something like that, into something like that. And I was like, if I stay in the Marines, like, I'm never gonna be able to touch an issue like that, or it'll be years before I have the ability to like really maybe try to like play a role in solving some sort of crisis like that. And I can look back and I'm like, that's not totally true, right? Like, everyone there, as we've talked about, there are like so many ways to serve, but that's really how I felt at the time. Yeah. And so I think, looking forward, what excites me most is the way that law can just be such a force for good, and both like empowering people. I mean, knowledge of the power is law, right? Like, and so I think hopefully being in a position at some point, being able to use the education I've been so lucky to receive, to try to be, a voice for people who, have trouble affording legal representation, or don't feel like they are, spoken for or seen in a courtroom. I'm pretty inspired by the work that public corruption attorneys, federal civil rights attorneys have done, and the cases that they've pursued, the verdicts that they've won. So I think hopefully I see myself doing something like that. But I try to be really open-minded as to what that could be. But, really after I graduate law school, I'll start and I'll work for a federal judge in Pittsburgh for a year. So I'm excited to be back home and like get to be back in that community and then go from there.
I have the utmost faith that
Thank you, Chris.
Wherever you choose to navigate yourself to, the world's going to be a better place because of it. So
thank you, Chris.
I wish you all the best of luck. And it was so awesome to talk to you.
I know, likewise.
I've been looking forward to this all week.
Yeah, truly. Are we best friends?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.